want everybody to know that budget is available year-round on the website. We're try to be as transparent as we can, and if you don't find what you're looking for on the website, always feel free to call staff, the finance director, city secretary's office, and get what you need. But the annual budgets, as well as the comprehensive annual financial reports, the audited numbers are always listed on the website, and you can go through them in detail if you'd like. And so we're still not to the expenditure level which we were in 2009, which is not a bad thing or a good thing. It's just where we are and the resources we have today. The general fund revenues, as you would think, is about the same because we do have balanced budgets. We'll show in a little bit. We spend a little bit of fund balance on one-time expenditures, but we're increased a little bit in revenues as well. The property tax, as everybody realizes probably, there's not many cities that have a July 1 fiscal year. So when we're putting budget together, we do not have the final tax rolls. And in fact, when we do the actual first draft of budget, we only have preliminary. We don't even have the preliminary. We have since have the preliminary rolls, but this budget assumes that the total tax rate will be the existing rate. So we are not proposing any rate increase at all. We'll say that there's been some discussion in the community that some houses or some areas are seeing some. We're hearing of increases, and others we're seeing of some significant decreases in valuation. And that's not the city's responsibility to set those values, but we are following up and trying to see what's driving that, and we're going to get word out to the community on what's driving that. And all we want to stress, though, is it's important to whether you think it ought to be lower or higher that we have those on the rolls for as close as what the true market value is, and it's not to the benefit of the city that we're pushing that, but to the benefit of the residents, because there's insurance concerns if it's way out of whack, too far under the true market value. There's insurance concerns. There's problems with getting home improvement loans or trying to resell. So the city will be following up and getting information out on trying to encourage people to look into their property value on their home. And again, you want it to as close as what the actual market value is, whether you believe it's too high or too low. You want those pretty much in line of what the appraisal district shows. The ad valorem taxes, you can see, has dropped a little bit, and again, we won't get the final rolls till sometime in July, and we set the tax rate in September. But again, everything's kind of overall, we believe we're going to be fairly close. If we're up or down a little bit, there's enough flexibility in budget that I'll show you in a few minutes that we'll be able to adjust. We do not think there's going to be any drastic changes needed based on what the rolls will end up ultimately being. Sales tax, again, that from year to year, from month to month rather, is an up and down thing. And the best measure is you try to look at month of this year to the same month of the prior year. Last couple of months, or 3 months actually, we've had a little bit of drop, but the last 3 or 4 months of 2010, we were up a little bit. But overall, we're right about year to date relatively flat. Again, everything's relatively flat in revenues. Franchise fees, same thing. We're showing a little bit of a decrease. Franchise fees includes the electric, the gas, and the phone. Such things as cell phones are becoming more and more popular, and people are not even having the phones at the house. You don't pay for the franchise fee for cell phones. So, over time, we'll probably continue a little decline in the phone bill or the phone franchise fees. Electric and gas, somewhat weather related, the gas especially. So those fluctuate, but again, you can see they're relatively flat. Use of fund balance. That is the general fund balance of at the end of the fiscal year, what is left over. And our fiscal policy for the city says we're 15 to 25%, and that's very important to keep that in for bond ratings, and that again is a sign, or what the bond raters look at is one of the main things is how you manage your money and fund balance. And you don't want overly heavy fund balances because it could be interpreted, or citizens think you're overtaxing and not using the money wisely. And you certainly want enough to anticipate some changes, whether it be economic changes to the overall budget or unanticipated expenditures for emergency, like the year we had Ike. But from 2003, we had a fund balance of about 3.8. At the end of the fiscal year in 2006, or July 1, 2007, we were a little over $9 million. That year, we actually put that toward the purchase of a fire truck that we had planned to issue debt on, and we actually bought the fire truck out of cash. This year, excuse me, the original budget we projected, this time last year, $7.1 million. We're going to finish the year, the latest projection, again, it'll be up or down a little bit by the time we close out the fiscal year, but right at $7.9 million. So, if we look, that 15 to 20% range is what we're proposing for 2012 is $6.8 million, which would be 22.2% of the budgeted revenues. Those one-time expenditures, if you see that, we are using some fund balance, but we certainly don't want to use fund balance if I think the state budget term was rainy day fund on ongoing operating expenses such as salaries and all, because they don't get replaced. Operating expenses go on. So what the city has done for the last number of years is tried to use those toward one-time expenditures. The last 2 years, we did not put money back toward the computer replacement fund or the fleet replacement fund. And this year, we do have budgeted and believe we'll be able to contribute to toward those again. So we'll be able to, as a police vehicle or something in Public Works needs replacement, the funds will be there, or the vast majority of it will be there to replace it as needed. Same thing with the computer. We're buying some additional equipment, which again is one-time expenditures, and then we have a contingency set aside for $350,000. So these are the areas that if, in fact, the tax values do not come in quite of what we're anticipating, that we would be able to adjust, as well as you could go back and look at budgets. But as we all know, the general fund budget is 2/3 of personnel. Excuse me. That's how we provide services to the citizens. The vast majority of it's personnel cost. Over half of that general fund expenditures, the $31.9 million, I believe it was, is towards public safety. The police and fire department counts for a little over 50% of the total general fund, and 2/3 of the total budget is personnel across the board. So these are the areas, though, that those would be harder to adjust again, and these are the ones you'd be able to get the budget back within line if, in fact, the roles aren't quite what we anticipate them to be. The capital improvement budget, again, that's on file with the city secretary, and we can, somebody's certainly welcome to go through them. But in short, to sum it up, is we're continuing the projects that we have on the books that we've been moving forward for the last couple of years. Some of the bigger projects everybody's well aware of. In there is the surface water treatment plant that will be completed and producing water in the fourth quarter of 2011, actually delivering water to customers in the early part of 2012. We have the Community Center Pro Shop and the Tennis Rec Center are out for bid and will become the council for award sometime during the month of July. Those projects are moving forward. The ITS, everybody can see now, it's the Traffic Intelligent Transportation System, where all the lights will be synced. But you see the big black poles, those are cameras and antennas for all the signals to talk to each other. We have the Quail Valley East that's under design now that will be going out for bid for construction. Smaller items such as sidewalk replacements in there. So it's pretty well a continuation of what we've seen with the capital improvements in the past. But we are, again, I'll stress for anybody, that was just a very brief summary of it. Budget is pretty much a year-round thing. It's always being adjusted as far as, you're something over here that a department head sees more of a need in another line item, they'll take a little bit or cut back on expenditure here to get something they need in another line item. So it's an ongoing process. The formal process, we actually start in January with revenue estimates, and then the department heads start working on their budget. They submit to the budget, to the finance officer, director, and the budget director. And from that, we present it to council, and then the council committee, as y'all know, goes through it as well as anything we need from in council on comment and feedback. The formal budget hearing, as required by law, is the next council meeting. But would encourage residents, again, that anytime during the year they have any input on budget, it's almost easier. That's one thing that the state law seems to have a little bit out of whack. They make you do it almost at the time you're adopting it. When it's a large document like that, it seems too late, but that's the law and that's what we need to follow. But anytime the residents want to have some input on budget, either through council or staff, we're very open to that. And I want to thank the department heads and Wes Fella and Cynthia Conley for putting together the budget. They do the majority of the work each year. And the department's heads have been very good about recognizing the times we're in and, realizing we're working with the resources we have. And we would like to do more, and we'd like to have some more things be able to done, but I think it's pretty remarkable that this city has a long history of being and we've put some numbers out, very efficient and effective with the resources we have. It's not just the tax rate, it's the dollars you're collecting and how you're using it. And I think as the state rep and some of the other speakers talked about the recognition the city's receiving, and it's a sign of the city's doing a lot of good with the resources we have. So and that's all I had, and it'll be on the agenda for adoption at the next meeting.
Any questions?